to This Week in Svelte episode 117. Yeah, I had a moment of like brain fart, and I couldn't remember how to say 17 in English. Today we have a showcase, and I'm pretty happy about it because it's a form library, and form library are always a bit exciting, but most important because Fabian is here, and Fabian is also one of the creators of Valibot, which is my favorite validation library. In general, like it's a pretty chill guy, and it's a pretty super expert guy. So I'm pretty excited to see what he did for Formish. So let's jump right into the changelog. And by the way, I'm scrolled down all the way because there's actually a very, very nice first PR that was released yesterday. Oh, before we start, let me ask you for something. And sorry for that, but I'm gonna flash bang you because Form Google does not have dark mode, but if you are using AI and Svelte, we started building the official MCP server for Svelte, and we need your help because we need to identify common issues, like what generally AI gets wrong. There are some suggestion here, like it generally imports rune, or it's always using derived, like the derived rune with the derived store. It's always using on-call-on-click instead of on-click. Another common one that I've seen is that it use $ derived with a function instead of $ derived.by. So if any of this, it's a good indication. And if you can, I'm gonna post this in chat and in the description. If you can submit all your troubles inside this form. If you can, try to use different answer to showcase different things, but it's not necessary. It's just a nice thing to do. And try to use this kind of stuff, this kind of suggestions. So I'm gonna post it in chat, and let me post it here. So if you want, you can access it. And let's switch to the changelog. So let me actually close this. And again, it's a pretty interesting one because the very first release is experimental async SSR. So this is something that I was literally could not wait for, because basically we now have experimental async, right? But as of today, you have to use a Svelte boundary around every async and await. If you want to use await inside a component, you need to use a Svelte boundary with a pending snippet next to it, because SSR is not asynchronous, and so during SSR, every Svelte boundary with a pending snippet is basically skipped altogether. The pending snippet is rendered, and so basically this meant that if you want to use async await inside your Svelte application, you basically had to forgo SSR, and it's not something that I am that I do that I like to do. I'm you should really force me to forgo SSR. And so I basically started a couple of projects, actually small toy projects with SvelteKit recently, and I said, yeah, I want to try async await and remote function and stuff like that, but in the end I ended up going with the good old load function and to load data, because I didn't have SSR. So I cannot wait until this is also in SvelteKit, because right now this is just in Svelte. I can show you though how it looks like. And the nice thing, so if you can see, I have this products API, and forget these errors. I don't know why Grammarly, I think I dismissed it. Let me dismiss it. ignore this error because it's pretty new, so it doesn't know yet. I think it's a bug in Svelte probably, but regardless, the point is, inside this products.svelte, I am literally awaiting inside the script tag and then rendering the products in a div. So it's a pretty simple component, nothing particular. But the nice thing is that, as you can see, like, I can use a wait and I'm not inside a boundary, right? And now if I render this inside a load function, I can just await render and I pass the component and then it works. So I get back the body of the component. So as you can see, this is the HTML that gets generated by that component. And as you can see, like, it's not appending snippet, like, it's literal data that we are fetching over the network and rendering inside our HTML. Now, obviously, this is showing like this because in my thing here, I have a pre around it. But if I remove that and I do, I don't know, add HTML, you can see like this is HTML that has been rendered by this component using async SSR. Now, the reason why you cannot use it in SvelteKit as of today is that obviously SvelteKit needs to be updated to make use of the async renderer. And by the way, a very nice touch is that there's no render async anywhere. Like, you literally just await render, and if you are using, like, basically, if I do this, you can see that now if I don't await and I refresh, now I'm getting an error because encountered asynchronous work while rendering synchronously. So I'm rendering synchronously because I don't have the await, and so I'm getting an error because there is a asynchronous work where it is that is not enclosed in a boundary. But if I do await, then it works, and that's pretty nice, right? Like, you don't have to learn another function; it's just the same function. It did require a bit of a hack. But it works and it's very nice. All right, so I just wanted to show you this for a second. So there is also correctly SSR hidden until found. I think there was a bug that where if you used something like this, it was not rendering SSR server-side rendering correctly, because I think hidden was just a Boolean attribute, and so we just probably removed the thing, and now it is not. Issue state proxy unmount warning when unmounting a state proxy. That's interesting. Let me see. So let's open in a new tab. There's no good reason to use state when mounting a component. So rather than accommodating that scenario, we should at most warn it. Not us, because candidly this really doesn't matter. Let me see what the bug that is being closed here. Cannot call unmount method when using attachment and state. Okay. Yeah, okay, so yeah, so basically the return value of mount, if you were using this component instance, like you storing the component instance that you get back from mount inside a state variable, and then unmounting it, you would get a warning. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty weird one. That's an interesting bug. And by the way, you can also use state.row. So yeah, if you ever encounter this bug, you can just use state.row if you really want to do something like this. Yeah. Pretty cool. Add then to class component render output. Yeah, so this is just, it's basically what unlocks the await render. Like when you have a .then, that .then, like the then function, is rendered asynchronously. And I suppose this was added because the class component, when you were trying to render the class component, it did not have a .then, and so you could not await it. Preserve SSR context when block expression contain await. Yeah, so this is probably just a bug inside async SSR, where block expression that was containing await were not persisting the context, and then bumps up dev dependencies. So yeah, this is good. Let's see if we have some new SvelteKit release, and we do. Oh, pretty poetic from Antoine. North Star is a talk that Rich did a few months ago, so pretty nice. Okay, more robust remote function code transformation. So this was just something. So when using a remote function, we need to explore your file system to know which files have a .remote endpoint, right? Initially, we were just basically looking into a couple of folders to not look everywhere. Then we started using manual chunking from a rollup to explore the code base, and I mean to put every single remote function in its own chunk, basically. But that was also problematic, and so Simon found a solution through, like, actually Bluey found a solution. Bluey is one of the Vite maintainer, he's also a Svelte maintainer, and Bluey found, like, used the solution in one of his projects and handed that solution to Simon, which then, like, scrambled that to implement it for SvelteKit, and now it's much more robust. Include event property on pop state link form navigation. So when you are navigating, there is an event property on it, so that you can actually do something with that for pop state, for link, and for form navigation. So this is in the on navigate, after navigate, and before navigate. Respect replace state, keep focus, no scroll when a navigation results in a redirect, so before it was not working. Invalidate preload cache when invalidate all is true. That's good. Fit adds SvelteKit version to app HTML. This is interesting. So now I wonder what this, well, I guess, yeah, you can then use the version to do something, probably. Let me see. Yeah, if you want to pass it to the analytics, it's good, it's good. So, like, you can know if someone is on an old version of your app, for example. Allow remote function to return custom types serialized with transport hook. So now they respect the transport hook, which is good. Fulfill before navigate complete when redirected. I think this was a bug with navigation in general. Might be wrong. Fit enhance remote form function with schema support, input and issue property. This is also a big one, guys. Remote form function get parsed POJO instead of form data object. So this is also a pretty good one for forms, because as of this release of 2 days ago, now remote function gets like they act a bit different. This is something that a lot of people complained about. because like before you could not validate your form. And the reason why you could not validate your form before is that like a form is just sending form data, which is a key value basically. So you cannot do much with form data, like you cannot validate much. However, a lot of people were saying like you should probably use like transform the value of a form based on like instead of getting the form data inside the form function, you get an object that is validated within the validation part. And that's basically what we did. The only issue is that, which by the way, Valibot, this is from Fabian, which we'll talk later. And by the way, Fabian also has a library to basically do the same thing, like based on a naming convention on some on the name of your fields, you get like you can transform a form data object into an actual object correctly typed. So basically what you can do is that, as you can see, like you have this create post form, and the first argument you can pass a schema from standard schema, so Valibot or Zod or archetype or even effect, and then as a result you get the actual object in the function. So in this case you're creating a form and you're expecting a title, which is a non-empty string, and a content, which is a non-empty string. And so now you get title string and content string. So now you can basically get, instead of doing form data.get title and form data.get content, you just get the string and the value. And the nice thing is that you can use your validation library to also coerce some values. So yeah, so the one difference is to query is, this is a typo probably, so if you want to contribute you can fix this typo. The schema inputs must all be type of string or file. So basically the point is, in input you get a string, that's it, you cannot get something different. But most validation library, like for example Valibot, allow you to do v.pipe, and you can transform the content. So you can say that this needs to be a string, and like there's no way around. But once you get the string, you can transform the value into a number. And I guess, yeah, that's the validation for the rest, for the transform. In Zod, you can do something like this, z.coerce.number. So whatever things you get, you will get a number out. And as you can see, number, it is a number here. So that's pretty interesting. Another interesting bit is that you can use the name attributes on the form to build more complex forms. Like, for example, if you have something like this, name.first, name.last, this will create inside, like, will create an object that has a name and a first property, a name and a last property, and then jobs, for example, this is how you get an array. So you can say that this is jobs at index, and then it has a title, and so you can see, you can get it. To indicate a repeated field, use one of these. So for example, for a checkbox, you can see that this has language, and this means that you will get, for this you will basically get an array with the one selected. The very nice thing about this is that you also get this field method. So basically this solved one of the biggest issue, in my opinion, in forms in general, and it's the fact that you kind of have to like eyeball the compatibility from your server and your client. Like with actions, for example, you are using form data, and so you kind of need to find a way to keep the things that you are reading in check with the things that you are putting into your HTML. And you can fix this with this createPost.field, and this will be type safe. So once you declare a title, that will be a title. So that's pretty nice. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, it has an attachment. And by the way, you also get, so if the submitted data does not pass the schema, the callback will not run. Instead, the form object issue object will be populated. So you can do createPost.issues to get all the errors, the validation errors that you get. And so in this case, you are saying that the title has an issue, basically. And in this case, the content has an issue. By the way, this is probably going to change soon, because right now you are passing in a string, but there is a proposal to do this with a proxy. So you can do createPost.field.title, and so you get more auto-completion out of this. And you can also do this createPost.validate. And this will validate like programmatically. So for example, on input on the form, you can validate the form manually, basically. You can also specify a pre-flight schema. So you can have this createPost.preflight schema, and you pass in a schema. And what this will do is that it will populate issues on the client side. So you can basically create another schema. I mean, it could be the same, but it's rarely the same, but it could be the same. And you basically can pass this schema to the preflight function, and this will basically do validation for you before actually going to the server and validate the issue accordingly. Yeah, and note that you cannot export a schema from a .remote.ts file, so the schema must either be exported from a shared module or from a script module block in the component containing the form. It also contains an input property which reflects its current value. As the user interacts with the form, input is automatically updated. And by the way, there is Fabian in the chat that is saying, and obviously I need to restart my highlighting message, but Fabian is saying that it's not working. I wanted to highlight that it is not working. Oh, I completely lost the connection. Sorry guys. Let me restart here. Sorry. I built a small contraption to do a bunch of stuff, and it's not working, obviously. So Fabian is saying that we will improve and simplify transformation of common data types with Valibot v1.2. So they are going to release, and by the way, I think Fabian is also asking for feedback for Valibot 1.2. Correct me if I'm wrong, Fabian. Okay, so you can also, if you pass name with an underscore, it will not be in the, like, we will not return back that field because it can be sensible, right? So we don't want to, only the first input will be populated when the page reload, because you don't want, if the page reloads, to also load the password. All right, so this was most of it. Please take a look and try it out. I think I'm legit pretty hyped about this. Like, there's so much stuff going on right now in SvelteKit that it is a game changer, and I'm pretty sure that it will make noise. Hi Scott. Scott is here in the chat. Ensure environment setup is in its own chunk. Prevent loops in post-build analysis phase. So after the build, there is an analysis phase and probably there was a loop. Handle nested object field in form data. Robustify form helper types. Avoid running the init hook during builds if there's nothing to pre-render. Yeah, that checks out. Ensure SSR rendering gets request store context. So this is something that it was breaking. I think it was breaking remote functions because basically the point is that SvelteKit is using async local storage to like persist information through asynchronicity. I don't know if I said it correctly, and so you actually need to pass the right stored context. All right, let's see if we have any other. We have 2 new release of Svelte package, better alias resolution, and handle import-export when resolving aliases, and prevent false positive alias replacement. So a lot of work around aliases. There is a new release of SV. Create project from Svelte. Oh, this is also a nice one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is a nice one for you. It's definitely a nice one for us maintainers. Because now in a Svelte playground, which I don't know if I have one open, / playground. Once you have, so I'll show you, like, I was working on something like this with a timer that ticks down. Let's say that I want to have this locally. Now I can open this and I can click this set up locally. And once I do this, I can open my terminal, I can do cd stuff, and then I can pass this sv create from playground, and I can do this, and this will install the latest version, and then fails for some reason. Directory not empty. Okay, I think I need to create probably I don't know, like timer maybe. I don't know. Maybe like this. Should have tried it before. Dear. Let me check. Help. Oh, come on. Okay. Oh, it's npx? I don't know. I don't know if it's that. But you can now do it. Don't do it like I did it, but do it correctly. Okay. Speed up internal test, which is always good. Streamline object helper. Update ESLint and use define config from ESLint config to fix the deprecation warning. Add types node in dev dependency. So small chores, but it's still good. All right. I think that's it for the changelog. As I've said, again, we are working on the official Svelte MCP server, so expect something. And once again, sorry for the flashbang, if you have any feedback around, like if you're using AI and AI gets something wrong consistently, please let us know through this form that I posted above. All right, I think now it's time to switch to something that is a bit more interesting than me blubbering. And we can switch to the Valibot guy, Fabian. Just a second.
I can't hear you. You're muted.
Because he's built Formish, which is a very cool library for building forms, which is completely framework agnostic, and now it also has an adapter for Svelte. So, and we're also planning to do something for SvelteKit to integrate it with the remote functions. So, Fabian, the stage is yours.
So yeah, hey everyone, great to be here. Unfortunately, I missed the beginning when you talked about the form stuff for the changelog, but I will take another look at that. It will be also interesting when we
You can rewatch it, don't worry. But I
explore.
also praised Valibot, so you definitely need to rewatch it.
Okay, yeah, let's take a look at Formish. So as I said, I unfortunately did not hear everything that was already said about forms with Svelte, so I can't reference that now. But basically, Formish is a new form library that handles state and validation for you. It's built with Valibot, so it's schema-based. And the goal is to provide a type-safe and modular form library where you can build forms really, really easy. And I think the best thing to show it to you is just that we build a form together. And that's what we're gonna do now. So I already prepared a playground. It's currently empty, nothing is in here. And it's basically this file. And we are just gonna start to create a login form. And a form with Formish starts with a schema. In this case, a login schema. No AI, we don't want that. And the first thing we want to do is we want to import, not from Svelte, we want to import any entity from Valibot, that looks good. And then we can create a login schema. Let's see, okay, that doesn't look that good. Okay, let's continue with object. And then we have an email field. And we need a pipe because we want some additional validation. And to fast forward, I will copy the prepared schema over, but give you a quick explanation. So we have now an object that has an email and a password, and we can validate that it's, for example, not empty. We can validate that the email is actually an email. And the cool thing, you can also pass your custom error messages. And these are also then the error messages that will show up in the form. We are done now with the first step. And the next step is to create the form. And that's pretty simple. You just write const login form. And then we use Formish with create form. And the only thing you need to do is pass over your schema. Oops. And that looks good. AI is pretty annoying. Maybe we can disable that. Disable code. Okay. Oops. Okay. Perfect. Now we have our schema. We used Formish and connected our schema to the form. And now we can start building what the form renders. And by that, we start with the form component. That's also something, oops, I think I imported it from the wrong resource. We want it from Formish as well, that looks good. And the form component that we provide is just a really thin wrapper about the native form HTML element. And the first thing you do is you connect your form, in this case, the login form. So what does create form do? Create form basically creates a reactive store. And by creating the store and pass it over to, for example, the form, the field, or even other methods we provide, they can use the data it stores, and they can also operate on the store and, for example, change it. And by providing or by passing over the form store, we can build a modular library. That means only the parts that you actually use will be part of your final bundle. And the benefit is the download size of your website will be faster, and also the parsing of the JavaScript code. Okay, let's continue. So we connected our form, and because it's just a really thin wrapper around the form HTML element, we can also write on submit. And for now, let's just console log the output. That looks good. And now we can start creating what the form renders. And I start with some HTML elements just for styling. And let's add also a header to our form. And some more styling. And now we can continue with Formish. So the last thing we did is we added the form element. And the next thing is we render our fields. And for that, Formish provides the field component. And the field component is basically a wrapper component that provides you the state of a field. In this case, we connected again to our store. And then we also tell the field what field it is. We use paths for this in Formish. And the cool thing is, because we use the schema, our form can now infer everything from the schema. We can use the schema for validation, for example, for the error messages, but the form can also infer its types. And that's why we get auto-completion. And if we would type it wrong, we would know it right away. And it even knows that we probably want email in this case. So let's continue with email. And the next thing is to write a snippet. And we need children and we need field. And that gives us the possibility to read now the local state of the specific field. And next on, we can just render the markdown. And Formish is headless. That means you can render whatever you want, and that's totally up to you. I use the text component that's already part of this repository. Text input, perfect. And now we pass over what we need to pass over. Let's start with the props. That is something Formish provides you. Next on, let's pass over the input to make it controlled. Next, let's pass over the arrows. And add some basic HTML stuff. A label. And a placeholder text. And make it required. And now let's switch over to our editor and see what happens. And as we can see, we have our header. That's what we added here. That's nothing Formish specific. That's just part of the playground of the repository I'm using here. And then we added the field and connected it to an UI element. And that's basically what we can see here. And if I press now submit, we can see an error message. Please enter your email. And that's the error message we defined here. And if we would enter a wrong email, you can also see we get a next error message that it's badly formatted. And that's this part. Let's fast forward and add the rest of the form. That's also that's the password field and the footer of the form. Okay, I messed something up. I have to add it. Here. And if we now switch over, we have the full form. And if we so we have now the full form, and if we submit it, we get an error as expected. We can enter something. And once everything looks good and we submit it, we get the output. That's what we did here. And that's basically the email and the password. And that was just a quick demonstration for you to see how Formish works, and that the API surface is super simple. And next on, I would say we take a look at some advanced cases, and then I would say that's it. And I can answer questions if there are any. So besides this login form, I have some more forms, for example, payment form with a dynamic field where when you select an option, other fields show up. I also have a to-do form where you can add to-dos, and that's also a dynamic form because you can add new to-dos. And Formish also allows you to do operations on these dynamic fields. For example, I can move the field A, to the end, and then they will swap. Or I can replace the first field. And this even works for deeply nested forms. For example, let's zoom out a little bit. I have a form with top-level items, as you can see here, and each item has options. And I can swap the options, I can add a new option, but I can also swap the outer items. Now, the item 1 with the new option is down here. And besides that, Formish supports all basic HTML elements for building forms. So we can have numbers, we can have sliders, we can have checkboxes, uploads files, and so on. And yeah, that was a quick preview of Formish. If you are interested, feel free to take a look at our repository. And this playground you just saw here is also available if you click Svelte and then our playground code here.
All right, I'm back. I was struggling to get back to in camera. Yeah, it's pretty cool. As usual, I think like this is kind of your signature way of building libraries, which I really like. The fact that like they are very modular, they are very tree shakeable, and like they are. I also appreciate a lot the fact that it's completely headless. Like I think like building component libraries that are not headless. Personally, like I can see it working for some, I don't know, dashboard or something like that. But in general, I think like if you want a serious project, you need to go headless in any way, because like you probably need like your own design system and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I love
so
the fact that
the goal for Formish is to provide a really robust and hopefully at some point fully test-covered form solution that works for any signal-based framework kind of out of the box. And the cool thing with Formish is that we are not using our own reactivity system internally. We connect to the native signals. And that's why you can expect the native behavior you would also expect if you would build the form yourself in the framework you're using. And that also brings the bundle size down. So in this case, Formish and the login form you just saw will start at 2.5 kilobytes. And I guess there is almost no form library out there that offers all these functionalities and benefits
Yeah.
um, such a small bundle size.
Yeah, yeah, that's also something that I'm very happy about. In general, all of your libraries, like the fact that you are very keen on bundle sizes, because I see people obviously like for a form library, obviously it's obviously different, but I see a lot of people like saying, "Hey, I built this library and it's very small. It's like 10 kilobytes," and I say like, 10 kilobytes. It's 10 kilobytes. It's not very
Yeah,
small. So obviously, for a form
yeah,
library with all these things, it's a different thing. But I
yeah.
love the
And
fact that Valibot like starts from. I think like the whole Valibot is around three, no, maybe 1 point something kilobytes.
so Walibots, so the smallest Walibot schema starts at 600 kilobytes, for example, if you use just a string. If you add, for example, the number schema, it will only increase by maybe 20 or 30 bytes.
Mhm.
If you add something like object, it will increase a little bit more, but in most cases, your Walibot schema will be below 2 kilobytes.
Yeah, which is like wonderful. Like,
And and that's really challenging because um, the smaller the library, the less bytes you ship, the less compression can be applied.
yeah,
So achieving something with 1 kilobyte is hard.
yeah,
And for example, if it's like if the library grows and you have something like 10 kilobytes, the compression will be mostly pretty good because you already have so much code that
Mhm.
can be compressed. And if you add a little bit of code, it will not really change your bundle size. But if you have like a really small bundle size already, changing a little bit can likely increase it even more. And that's
Yeah,
why you have to focus on having like a clean and unified code base to achieve these numbers.
yeah.
And another thing I wanted to mention is um, Formish is kind of a low-level form library,
Mhm.
and you can build, if you want, your own libraries on top. Or for example, if you don't like that you have to pass on the store to like form and fields, you can also create your own create form function on top of our create form function that merges form and field already connected to the store into the
Mhm.
return type. And you can build kind of your own abstraction. So the goal kind of Formish is to build something like Wheat that provides a platform where
Mhm.
others can build on top of. And for example, one of our next steps will be that we look into meta frameworks, for example, SvelteKit,
Yeah.
and we take a look on how, for example, remote functions work. And then we will publish another package. Um, right now we have Formish Svelte, it's pure Svelte, but there will be another SvelteKit package that natively connects to SvelteKit
Mhm.
and will give you the same DX, but with automatic client-server communication.
Yeah. I think like at the end of the day, probably for SvelteKit, we're gonna probably look for it, but I don't think like at the end of the day, you just basically spread the form action into a form. So I think it will basically already it should already work. I think I
Yes,
maybe I'm
but
wrong.
there will probably be some advanced cases where
Yeah.
we. So for simple forms, you're right. It will probably already work out of the box, or it might work out of the box. Who knows? I haven't tested it yet. But if you build like really complex forms where form data gets to its limits, that's also what we heard earlier in the
Mhm.
stream. Um, Formish will very likely provide you solutions to solve this. And we can solve that because we know how form data works. We, for example, know how Booleans will be converted and
Yeah.
other data types. And we have the schema, so we know what type you would expect. And we can use this information on the server to convert primitive form data into a rich JavaScript object before we
Mhm.
put it back into the schema.
Yeah.
And that's why if you build like really simple forms and you don't need too much control over it, like we have here with dirty state, touch state, error messages, and so on, you can probably stick to what Svelte offers out of the box. And if you build more complex forms, maybe forms that yeah, get pushes the what Svelte provides out of the box to its limits,
Yeah.
then you maybe want to look into Formish. And I hope we can provide a great solution here to build everything you want.
One question that I have, like, I know it's pretty, like, it's probably like a bit, how can I say, like, maybe, I don't know, it's like a gnarly question, but I am like super keen on progressive enhancement. How's the progressive enhancement story for Formish? I suppose it's probably good because like it's headless and like you are still using a form, so you can probably just use a form. But does Formish also provide something for progressive enhancement? Like, I don't know.
Yes, so the goal is to provide progressive enhancement out of the box. So it should work without JavaScript. But here I also have to take a closer look to SvelteKit. So I already implemented that back then with modular forms. It was my first form library. And I already built that there with Quick, and it worked. So you could use it with JavaScript and without it, and even like error messages and other things would work in this case. And that's why I'm pretty optimistic we can get that done with Formish too,
Yeah.
and also put that to SvelteKit. Yeah. And yeah, as you said, under the hood, we are choosing normal HTML elements
Yeah.
and follow like the best practices. And but yeah, there will be really complex forms where you do a lot stuff programmatically. Of course, then you need JavaScript.
Yeah. All right. There is a question from the chat. I mean, I kind of suppose the answer is that. So, like, the question from Eric is, what's your opinion? I mean, I think it crashed. Crashed again. Let me see. I don't
I
know.
can also take it on my phone.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. The question from Eric is, what's your opinion when comparing Zod to Valibot? I suppose that you like Valibot more. I might be wrong.
Okay, also before I built Valibot, I was a huge SOT user and probably one of the early adopters of SOT. And I had huge projects where I used SOT before. And SOT brought a new innovation to schema libraries with type safe and TypeScript first. And that was a huge benefit. And also SOT had a really amazing DX with the chaining for ensuring that a string is an email. So it made it pretty simple. So you don't need a lot of docs because TypeScript kind of automatically documented it for you. And that's why it was pretty simple to use. And the reason why I created Valibot is I built modular forms about 3 years ago now, I guess. I can also open it quickly. And I built a custom validation system into modular forms because SOT was too huge and the focus on modular forms was to be modular and really small, basically a similar philosophy that we just saw with Formish. And that's why I also did not integrated schema support because it didn't make sense to use like a small form library with maybe 2 kilobytes and then import a 10 kilobyte sort. But yeah, people requested it, and I later on added sort support, and that questioned if we could build a schema library with a similar DX, but with a smaller bundle size. And this question basically later on became the question of my bachelor thesis.
Yeah.
And if you're a nerd and really curious, feel free to read it. I think it's a good read if you're interested in these topics. And yeah, that at the end leads to Valibot. And now coming to your question, how would I compare it? you can probably build the same schemas with archetype, sort, and Valibot. Of course, every library has its benefits and may provide some features that the other don't do, but like the common feature set is pretty similar. And for example, archetype has like great performance because it can kind of compile the validation logic and optimize it on how the JavaScript runtime will execute it and stuff like that. But at the end, you have to look at these libraries. You need to check out the API, build something with it, and see what you like. And then you can also think about what you want to focus on. If you want to focus on a small bundle size, I guess Valibot is the way to go. If you want to focus on something that is already there since, I don't know, 7 years, and has probably a little bit better ecosystem and is integrated in, I don't know, the MCP TypeScript SDK, then maybe go with SOT. And yeah, but of course I would choose Valibot. I also think
and I'm going to shield one of my library. If you're building an MCP server and you don't want a huge load of the official SDK, you can use TMCP that also supports Valibot. Ding.
Yeah. So I know my answer was not super clear, but I will work on a blog post where I will write more about why Valibot and maybe why not SOT or Archetype or others. And I also plan to write a comprehensive blog post on performance, because I think there is like a lot of confusion, because the benchmarks we see with like 100x faster than SOT, they don't represent the real world. And if you don't put this information into the right context, it kind of confuses.
Like every benchmark, basically.
Yeah. So to cut that short, Valibot is fast, and Valibot is very likely faster than the own code you may write, because you have network regress or other stuff in there. So that's nothing you should worry about when you use Valibot. And yeah, in some benchmarks, SOT 4 is a little bit faster than the other benchmarks where Valibot is a lot faster. So it also depends what you test. And so what's really cool for Valibot, it's modular. That's the benefit. That brings the benefit on bundle size, but it also has another benefit, because you can just replace every function we provide with a known function, because it's modular. As long as you comply to the shape it returns, you can build whatever you want. And that's really powerful, because if something doesn't work as you would expect, you can change it. You can just replace it. And another great benefit of Valibot is that our source code is super clean. Feel free to take a look, feel free to compare it with other source code. And the benefit of this clean source code and the modularity is that we can test the individual function and functionality a lot better, in my opinion, than other libraries can do. And that's why we have 100% test coverage, and you can be sure that the schema you write in the validation you would expect also works.
All right. Thank you very much, Fabian. Thank you for your time to showcasing your library, and thank you for building your library. Because I think it's a pretty good thing. Thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you learned something. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.